On the night of March 15, 2019, in the quiet suburb of Lakewood, Ohio, a 911 call shattered the silence. A woman was dead, her husband covered in blood, and their 3-year-old daughter was the only witness. Within hours, 34-year-old Michael Torres was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, Sarah. The evidence seemed overwhelming. His fingerprints on the weapon, blood on his clothes, no signs of forced entry. But Michael swore he was innocent. For 18 months, he sat in a county jail cell, facing life in prison, while his daughter Emma was placed in foster care. The prosecution had built what they called an airtight case. There was just one problem. They never asked Emma what she saw that night. And when she finally spoke, everything changed. This is the true story of how a broken system, tunnel vision, and the desperate words of a child exposed one of the most disturbing cases of police misconduct in recent Ohio history. To understand this story, we need to go back to the beginning. Michael and Sarah Torres met in 2013 at Cleveland State University. Michael was studying to be a teacher. Sarah was in nursing school. Friends described them as that couple, the one everyone envied. They were inseparable. By 2015, they were married. Sarah's best friend Jennifer Walsh remembered the wedding. Sarah was glowing that day. Michael couldn't take his eyes off her. They have this connection, like they were best friends who also happened to be in love. That's rare. In 2016, Emma was born, a healthy baby girl with her mother's green eyes and her father's dark curly hair. Michael took a teaching position at Lakewood Middle School, where he taught 8th grade English. Sarah worked night shifts at Metro Health Medical Center, 3 nights a week. Their life wasn't perfect, but whose is? Money was tight. Sarah's shifts meant Michael handled most of the childcare. They argued sometimes about bills, about exhaustion, about whose turn it was to do the dishes. But according to everyone who knew them, they were solid. They were making it work. Michael's colleague, David Chen, taught history in the classroom next door. Mike was one of the good ones. Patient with the kids, always stayed late to help students who were struggling. He'd show me pictures of Emma on his phone at least twice a day. That was his whole world, his family. Sarah's co-worker, Patricia Moore, said the same thing. Sarah talked about Michael constantly, how he'd leave little notes in her lunch bag, how he'd have dinner waiting when she got home from night shifts. She'd laugh about how he couldn't cook to save his life, but he tried. That's love right there. But on March 15, 2019, that love story became a nightmare, and nothing would ever be the same. It was a Friday night. Sarah wasn't scheduled to work. Michael had parent-teacher conferences until 8 p.m. He texted Sarah around 7:30. Running late. Conference went long. Be home by 9. Love you. Sarah replied with a heart emoji. It was the last message Michael would ever receive from his wife. When Michael pulled into their driveway at 9:17 p.m., the house was dark except for the living room lamp. Emma should have been asleep. Sarah usually put her down around 7:30 on weeknights. He unlocked the front door and called out, "Sarah, I'm home. Sorry I'm late." Silence. The TV was on, volume muted. Emma's toys were scattered across the floor. Michael set down his bag and walked toward the kitchen. That's when he saw her. Sarah was lying face down on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood. A kitchen knife was on the ground beside her. Michael's brain couldn't process what he was seeing. He dropped to his knees. "Sarah! Sarah! Oh God, no, no, no!" He grabbed her shoulder, tried to turn her over. Her skin was cold. There was so much blood. It was on his hands, his shirt, his knees. He fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking so badly he could barely dial. The 911 call was released later. You can hear Michael's voice, raw and breaking. "My wife, she's not breathing. There's blood everywhere. Please, you have to send someone. I don't know what happened. Please." The operator asked if he could perform CPR. Michael tried. He pressed his hands to her chest, counting compressions like they taught in school safety training. But he already knew she was gone. "Sir, is there anyone else in the house?" Michael's blood went cold. "Emma, my daughter, she's upstairs." He ran, taking stairs 2 at a time, his bloody hands leaving prints on the banister. Emma's room was at the end of the hall. The door was closed and a nightlight glowing underneath. He pushed it open. Emma was in her toddler bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide. She wasn't crying. She was just staring at him. "Daddy has red on him." That's what she said. Those were her first words. Michael looked down at his shirt, his hands. He was covered in Sarah's blood. "Baby, stay here, okay?
He'd seen
Don't
it
come
100
out.
times
Daddy's
before.
gonna..." He didn't
Except
know
this
how to
time,
finish that sentence.
He was wrong.
The sirens were
Prosecution's
already
case
approaching.
seemed rock solid.
Within minutes,
Assistant
Lakewood
District
Police
Attorney
Department
Karen
flooded
Mitchell
the house.
was known for her conviction
Michael was
rate.
standing in the
She was
front yard
methodical,
holding
sharp,
Emma when they
and
arrived.
she believed Michael
He tried to
Torres
explain,
was guilty.
tried to tell
Here's
them
what
what
the
he'd
state
found,
presented.
but his words
The knife
came out
used to
jumbled
stab
and
Sarah
frantic.
came from the
"My
Torres
wife,
kitchen.
she's not breathing."
Michael's fingerprints were all over it. But here's what the prosecutor didn't emphasize in her opening statement. They were Michael's knives. Of course his fingerprints were on them. He used them every day. Every door and window was locked from the inside. The alarm wasn't triggered. The prosecution argued this meant the killer was already in the house, and the only person with a key was Michael. But Sarah also had a key, and there was a spare hidden under a fake rock by the front steps, something half the neighborhood probably knew about. Michael had Sarah's blood on his clothes, his hands, under his fingernails. His blood was also found at the scene from a small cut on his palm. The prosecution claimed this happened during the struggle. Michael's public defender, an overworked attorney named Robert Palmer, argued that Michael cut his hand when he grabbed the knife, trying to understand what happened. That his panic and his attempt to help Sarah explained all the blood transfer. The jury looked skeptical. Michael said he was at school until 9 p.m., but the last parent who could verify his presence left at 8:45 p.m. That gave him a potential 30-minute window. Could someone drive from Lakewood Middle School to the Torres house in 15 minutes? Absolutely. Kill Sarah, stage the scene, then discover the body? The prosecution said yes. ADA Mitchell painted a picture of a struggling marriage, money problems, credit card debt, a wife working nights, a husband who felt neglected. She brought up a heated argument neighbors overheard 2 months before the murder. Michael's neighbor, Dorothy Peterson, testified that she heard raised voices coming from the Torres house one evening. "I couldn't make out the words, but they were arguing. She sounded upset. He sounded angry." What Dorothy didn't mention, because the defense never asked, was that Michael and Sarah were arguing about whether they could afford to take Emma to Disney World that summer. It was a discussion about money, not violence. But in court, it sounded sinister. The prosecution had no smoking gun, no confession, no video evidence, but they didn't need it. They had a dead wife, a bloody husband, and no other suspects. Michael's defense was simple. He didn't do it. But proving a negative is almost impossible. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Emma was never called as a witness. She was 3 years old. The judge ruled she was too young to provide reliable testimony. On May 7, 2019, the jury began deliberations. Michael sat in the defendant's chair, hands folded, staring at nothing. His parents sat behind him in the gallery. His father had aged 10 years and 2 months. His mother couldn't stop crying. After 14 hours of deliberation, the jury came back. The foreman stood. In the case of the state of Ohio versus Michael Torres, on the charge of second-degree murder, how do you find? The foreman cleared his throat. We find the defendant guilty. Michael's mother screamed. His father collapsed into his seat. Michael just closed his eyes. He was sentenced to 20 years to life. But the story doesn't end there. Because 1,200 miles away, a woman named Rebecca Torres, Michael's sister, was about to become his last hope. Rebecca Torres was a data analyst in Austin, Texas. She was 2 years younger than Michael and had always looked up to her big brother. She knew with absolute certainty that he didn't kill Sarah. But knowing and proving are two different things. Rebecca took a leave of absence from her job. She maxed out her credit cards. She moved back to Ohio and did something that the police should have done from the beginning. She investigated. Rebecca started with Sarah's phone records. After months of filing motions, she finally got access, and that's when she found something the police had missed. In the weeks before Sarah's death, she'd received dozens of calls from a blocked number, short calls, hang-ups, some as late as 2 a.m. Sarah also texted her friend Jennifer. I think that car was outside the hospital again. The same dark blue sedan. I'm starting to freak out. Rebecca took that information to the Lakewood police. Detective Walsh dismissed it. Lots of people get wrong numbers. Doesn't mean anything. But Rebecca didn't stop. She filed Freedom of Information Act requests. She contacted Sarah's coworkers. She interviewed neighbors. She became a one-woman investigation team. And then she found him. His name was Eric Dalton. 42 years old.
She wouldn't love him back.
He'd been a patient at Metro Health Medical Center in February 2019.
After his conviction,
Sarah had been his nurse for 3 nights during a psychiatric hold.
A free man.
Eric had become obsessed with Sarah. He'd asked for her schedule.
Reunion aired
He'd written
on
her
every news outlet
inappropriate
in the
notes.
country.
Hospital staff had flagged his
her little
behavior,
arms wrapping
but he was
around his
discharged
neck.
before
Michael
anything
dropped to
official
his
was
knees,
filed.
holding his daughter,
Rebecca found
sobbing
Eric's
into her
social
hair.
media.
I'm so
In the weeks
sorry,
before
baby.
Sarah's
I'm
death,
so sorry.
he posted cryptic
Emma pulled
messages.
back, her small
Some
hands
angels
on his face.
don't know they're meant to fly
them,
away.
Daddy. I told them
When the
about
world
the bad
takes
man.
what's yours, you take
Michael
it back.
Torres filed a lawsuit
She
against
doesn't
the
see
Lakewood
me yet,
Police Department
but she
for
will.
wrongful conviction.
Rebecca
He received
brought
a
this to the
$2.3
police,
million
to the
settlement.
prosecutor,
Detective
to
Walsh
anyone
was
who would
fired
listen.
and charged with evidence
They told her
tampering for
the
burying
case
Sarah's
was
stalking
closed.
reports. Eric Dalton
So
was
Rebecca
convicted
did
of
something
first-degree murder
desperate.
and sentenced to life
She contacted
without parole.
the Innocence Project.
But
She
here's the
reached
thing
out to
about a
investigative
story like
journalists.
this.
She posted
There's no
on
happy
Reddit.
ending.
She made TikTok
Sarah
videos.
is still gone.
And finally,
Emma grew up without
a
her
local
mother.
news station
Michael
picked
lost
up the
18
story.
months of his daughter's
Reporter
life that
Amanda
he can never
Chen
get back.
from Cleveland's Channel
The
5
system
News
that's supposed to
started
protect
asking
us
questions.
failed spectacularly.
Why hadn't police
focused on the
investigated Eric
easy
Dalton
answer instead of the
Why
right
had
one.
Sarah's stalking
A 3-year-old
reports
girl
been
had to live
ignored?
with trauma no
The
child
coverage
should
was
carry.
relentless.
And an innocent man
That's when
nearly
someone
lost
came
everything.
forward with the evidence
Today,
that
Michael
would
and
change
Emma live in a
everything.
small house in
Emma
Cleveland.
Torres was now
Michael doesn't
4.5
anymore.
years old.
He works from home.
She'd been in
doing
foster
freelance
care for
editing
18 months.
because he can't bear to
She
be
didn't
away from
understand
Emma
why
for
she
long.
couldn't see her daddy.
Emma is now
She didn't
9 years
understand
old.
why mommy never
She's in
came to
therapy.
say goodnight anymore.
She's doing well in school.
But she remembered
She still sleeps
that
with
night.
that stuffed rabbit.
Emma's foster mother,
Sometimes
Carol
late at
Williams,
night, Michael
was a
sits
kind
in her
woman
doorway
who'd
and
fostered
watches her
12
sleep,
children over
thanking
the
God
years.
that she found her
She
voice
noticed
when it
that
mattered
Emma would
most.
have nightmares.
Because a
She'd wake
3-year-old
up crying,
girl,
saying,
armed with
If
nothing
this
but the
story
truth
affected you,
and a stuffed
please
rabbit,
consider supporting
brought down a broken
organizations that
system
fight
and
wrongful
freed her
convictions.
father.
The Innocence
And that's
Project
the
has
power
freed
of a
hundreds of
child's
innocent
voice.
people. Links in the description. Also, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive true stories, and most importantly, share this video, because stories like Michael and Emma's need to be heard. Thanks for watching, and remember, the truth always deserves a voice, no matter how small. Michael and Emma's story remind us that truth has a voice, sometimes the smallest, most innocent voice of all. If this story moved you, remember, there are hundreds of Michael Torreses still sitting in prison cells right now, waiting for someone to believe them. Wrongful convictions aren't rare exceptions. They're a systemic problem that destroys families, wastes lives, and lets real criminals walk free. But you have power. Share this video. Talk about this case. Support organizations fighting for the innocent. Question the system when something doesn't add up. Because the next wrongful conviction could be your brother, your father, your friend. Emma Torres was just 3 years old, but she changed everything. Imagine what you can do. If you believe justice matters, hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss stories that